Everybody, welcome to this week's episode of the B3 podcast. I'm your host, Brett. Chris is not here. I got multiple injuries, Matt, and Tanner the head. We have our show partners, Elite Nutrition. Check them out at elitenutritionomaha.com. Use code B3 at checkout for 10% off. Or you can go to the store in Omaha or Lincoln, yell B3.
Get a free shaker.
We also have Rosewood Block. They make the best cutting boards and barbecue. Check them out at rosewoodblock.com. Use code B3 at checkout for 10% off there as well. We also have the real Midwest Mecca of Strength Omaha Barbell, where good times only cost you a small monthly fee. But we also do offer drop-ins and week passes. Also, if you like what we're doing, like, subscribe, share, follow. Go subscribe to our YouTube page. We're trying to put more content on there, more information, some good little short videos. So check us out there or any audio places you want to listen.
It's getting closer to summer, too. You have your student pass for the whole summer.
We do. We'll start that like
damn inexpensive. I wish I was
in May. Yeah, we have like a 3-month student pass for, I can't remember the price. It's like $100 or something like that.
Yeah.
It's pretty cheap, somewhere in there. So yeah, be on the lookout for that on our Instagram page. But Tanner's got some kind of topic today. This is either a good idea or a bad idea. So.
And we didn't talk about it before.
Yeah, this was not previously reviewed by anybody. So, all right, what do you got?
So, in 1919,
oh, so not recent.
Ford gave all their employees raises. Okay,
that was the last time.
And and then the Dodge brothers sued Ford for giving their employees raises, saying that they have no responsibility to their employees, that their only responsibility is their fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders as a publicly traded company. That was upheld, and it's the basis of almost all corporate law today. So when people are talking about these giant companies, so it just, for me, a perspective, Pfizer has zero responsibility to your health, to your well-being, or to the well-being of the country. Their job is to make their shareholders money. All corporations are. That's their responsibility. Yeah. So like it was like, oh, well, this makes a lot more sense. Like if you think about it that way, just don't trust any of them for anything. No, like they never have your well-being in mind.
No, I think some companies have different mission statements, and they have put more moral weight on their mission statement and what they try to do. But like ultimately, the buck stops with like what's their ROI? Like what are they looking to give back?
So like we don't have a healthcare system. We have a sick care system.
Oh yeah.
There is nothing designed in our system to make you healthy.
No, you saying that, not the healthcare part, but going back to have responsibility to the shareholders. Outside of healthcare, I still think that the customer has to trickle in, because if there's no customer, there's no... Right, so they have a responsibility to the customers, because if you don't have a return...
That's not the goal. The goal isn't a happy customer. The goal
is money.
Is money.
It is, but you have to have a repeat customer to have money.
Here's another example.
I'm talking about outside of healthcare.
Or you charge a lot for the product.
Or here's an example. Ford had a dually pickup. Okay, I think it was in the 70s. They had 2 gas tanks on it, and they were mounted on the sides. Mm-hmm. And they were getting people, if anyone got T-boned, they were exploding and killing people.
That sounds bad.
Okay. Ford ran the numbers, and it was cheaper to pay for the deaths than to recall the pickups.
Yeah.
So there is no responsibility to your like it's just money. How do we make money? Do we lose money for our shareholders? That's pretty much it.
I know, I do understand that, and I'm not saying that anybody's wrong. I'm just saying that, but you need repeat customer. It doesn't matter how expensive your vehicle is. If Ferrari only sold one Ferrari its entire life, like they sold one Ferrari and it blew up and killed that person, they would never sell another one.
Right.
But
you have to have a repeat customer. Now, when they designed...
I would argue that you don't have to have a repeat customer.
You have to keep selling. You have to make money.
Customers.
Well, yes, but obviously you're going to... If I'm like... Hey, my fucking Ford blew up. My dad died, and you're going to look at you're like, well, I'm not going to buy a fucking Ford. You know what I mean?
You wouldn't be a repeat customer. Then you would be like, I think it's important to distinguish like the goal. I think to what Tanner's getting to, like the goal and the mission statement is to make money for the shareholders.
It is, but if I'm going to tell you how great a Ford is, I'm probably going to be a repeat. If I'm going to tell you how great Elite Nutrition is, I'm probably going to be a repeat customer. If I tell you it's a shitty company, I'm not going to be a repeat customer, and then I've just discouraged you from being a customer. So it's somewhere along the line you have to have a good. I'm just saying you can't constantly have a shit product, or you're not going to have a business.
100%. But
I guess that's what I'm saying. Is so you have to have a repeat. So like maybe that like when Ford had all the tires blowing up with Firestone. Remember that back in the day? They remedied the problem. However, they did it to an extent. They still came out. They might have lost or gained some money, but maybe I didn't buy an Explorer, so I don't really care. You know what I mean? I was like, well, I don't have an Explorer, so I don't really give a shit about that. You know what I mean? Like,
to work through a little thought experiment using Tanner's example, right? If you do the numbers, right, especially in today's day and age, like there's enough data analytics out there that you could go through and say, all right, we're going to sell X amount of trucks, right? They cost X much. We make this much money on them. Cool. It costs us X amount of dollars when people blow up and die, and we got to pay those lawsuits. All right, cool. So
well, that's
check
what I
that
figured
out.
in, I suppose.
Right. But then also, let's take in the reputation part. So what is this going to do to our sales? So you do some poll. I'm sure back then they did some polling, called, talked to people and stuff like that. And so they're going to take that into account. If the loss of customer revenue would have outweighed what they projected to make, they would have done something. But because in their analysis, it was still a better financial move to just say, fuck it, we're going to keep the truck as is, they go forward with that.
Or they changed the truck, but they just didn't recall the old ones.
Okay, yeah, so you don't recall the old ones. So whatever their remedy was, right? So, but they can do that analysis. So, but it's important to like understand what their, what's the, like first principle thinking, I think is what it is. But essentially, like, it's like, what is the main drive? Like you have to get down to the root cause motivation to get there. Like there's companies out there, National Indemnity, I think, does a whole bunch of insurance lines, right? Their product is so-so, they continue to write business, but they make a shitload of money on investments. Like they're borderline brokerage firm. I believe that's the company. Like they have so much cash and so much investments that that's actually where they're making the majority of their money. So in that instance, they don't really need a whole big customer base. Like they have people that buy from them. They need to have some kind of cycling in and out, but I think there's different avenues to explore. You need some kind of sprinkling in there. But I think there can be an overemphasis on the value of the customer in the way this whole thing plays out when you start looking at all the different revenue streams with the mindset of companies need to make money. And I think that's where it gets creepy.
See, and that's as far as like the insurance company thing, that makes it look even worse because I think you don't care because you're just going to keep taking their money and they can't ever get any money back. So the money's already yours, right? Unless you have to pay a claim. That's where I would be fine if they took insurance companies, and if I'm with you for 10 years and never make a claim, you have to give me a portion of my money back.
There's some policies out there that have that kind of thing.
Because I think that keeps you from those people like National Indemnity who are like, well, we don't really give a fuck about you because we have all your money that you gave us and we invest it.
Yeah, and they invest it, and they'll. And the thing is, though, like they will pay the claim if it happens, right?
But like you said, they don't. So they could shrink down to 10 customers because they have so much money invested. They basically, like you said, they're just stock trading.
That's like I use that as an example. There are other companies out there that make huge chunks of money based on investments. Like right now.
Well, they said McDonald's was more of a property company,
right? So they do property, right? Like they just. But there was God, what was it? One of the big tech companies also is like huge in investments.
I mean, Facebook has massive server farms and things like that as well, and Google also.
But I'm just saying, it's not as like to go down that route. It is not as simple as we want it to be.
I think to your point, Brett, like I think you have to have a product worth buying.
Yes, that was my hope. But you need to, otherwise you don't
have to have a product worth buying, and there has to be some kind of customer service angle if something goes wrong. That's why everyone has a customer service department. It's just at the end of the day, their only responsibility is to their shareholders. And having a product worth selling is a responsibility to the shareholders. Right.
Yeah, because you have to have customers.
But if you like in the medical, if you have a shitty vaccine, it doesn't matter as long as people buy it.
Yeah, and that's why I say
like
medical
they
is
don't
different.
have.
Yeah, medical is different because it's just like it is what it is.
Right. Oh, but I mean, yeah. And it just like got me down this like rabbit hole of, and then I started doing a bunch of other research on things. And it's just they're especially and I guess the medical field just pisses me off the most because they don't ever like try and take care. Like we could be doing all kinds of things. A lot of the diseases and stuff we've had in the past that we have vaccines for. The problem wasn't the vaccine solved it. It was sanitation solved it, or the getting rid of arsenic solved it, or you know what I mean? Like they just have to sell more pokes. They just have to sell more drugs. That's all they have to do.
Well, and they have the corner of the market because you don't have an option. Like if I go to the hospital, I don't have an option. You know what I mean? Like as far as like, I mean, you could say, well, not get like, but if I'm dying,
Right, but that's where I think the medical industry is kind of that gray area in a capitalistic society because it's one of those things that you have to buy when you need it, and you don't have much option. Like
it's like
you
a
don't have
form
much
of like
choice.
socialism, kind of. Medicine is kind of socialism. Like you're kind of just forced into it. You don't really get a choice of. It's just like, well, you all have this, and
Well,
this is what you're going to
your
get.
choice is like you didn't choose to get sick, right?
Well, I mean, some people
Some people do.
could make better life choices.
Right, but
yes.
if we exclude those people, then just think about the
yeah, you're just like you're out there.
bad luck brain cancer, right?
Yeah.
It's just, like no one chooses that. So your only option is to enter into the medical industry
Yeah,
and try to get treatment.
Well, and like vitamin deficiencies lead to a lot of issues. Vitamin C deficiency, vitamin D deficiency, magnesium deficiency. Like there's a lot of things that we could do, but they don't make money on. For example, NAC, N-acetylcysteine, is a precursor to glutathione. So it ramps up your glutathione production.
and you know they use that if you OD on Tylenol.
Yes.
I did
they
not
do.
know that. One of my clients is a nurse practitioner told me that.
Really?
Yeah, that's what they used to
How much
counteract.
Tylenol do you have to take to OD?
People accidentally OD on Tylenol all the time.
Well, I had a client one time. My
It doesn't take a whole lot.
My sciatic was messed up, and she's like, "All right, take this many." She was a doctor. She's like, "Take this many ibuprofen, this many Tylenol." And I was like, "What?"
You can alter a Tylenol and ibuprofen.
Yeah, because you can cut the time frame down, right? It's like every 2 instead of every
Yeah.
4 hours or something like that.
Yeah.
I was like, "Whoa, I don't need to end up like retarded on this deal." Okay, like I don't need fucking brain damage from too many. But
But so during COVID, they ran a study on it, and it's also it slows viral replication. So they did a COVID study on it, and within 2 days of the study completing, they tried to pull it off all retail shelves.
remember
They
you saying
wanted to
that, yeah.
make it only prescription only.
dude, I would say knock on wood. Amber and I take NAC every day, and Amber usually gets like bronchitis or something like once or twice, and she'll feel a little cold coming on, and then it kind of basically comes to an end at that point. And I don't want to jinx it, but yeah,
Yeah. So what it does is it just allows your body. It slows the viral replication process. That's not an easy thing to say. Process. So it allows your body to fight it off.
and it's nothing crazy. It's just an amino acid, right? Isn't it like an amino?
N-acetylcysteine. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's worth it. I think it's, what is it, 250 servings for 20 bucks or something like that, 25 bucks, something like that. Yeah, it's got a weird taste,
It tastes like salty metal. It's terrible.
which is funny because I'll,
Like salty metal?
Like yeah.
Yeah,
Like
I
if you were to imagine what salty metal tastes like,
That's it. That's it, huh?
yeah, because like I dry scoop it. I mean, you're a pussy, you don't, but I dry scoop my creatine and then I throw that in there too. And the scoop size of creatine to NAC, creatine is like 100 times larger, but you can taste the NAC over the creatine because it's such a fucking weird taste. But it's kind of like lemony or something.
it is it can have a little bit of
I don't know what it is, but
Tang.
well, if you want to hide it in something, you hide it in citrus.
yeah, if you don't
That's
take
the only
NAC,
thing that if you throw it in your protein shake, you just ruin it.
if you don't take NAC, you should. It won't kill you.
Yeah.
It'll help you.
But yeah, that was just my whole thing. I just especially tied in with medical, like people they've just done such a good job of getting us all brainwashed. Right? Like we are all brainwashed.
Oh, they mean that they give a fuck about you?
Know that just the way we're supposed to do things, like you have to get a vaccine, right? You have to go to the doctor. Like these things are all things you have to do. A pill solves everything. You know, if you say anything that a vaccine could have ever caused anything wrong, you're an anti-vaxxer. And if you call me an anti-vaxxer, then boom, I'm crazy. And nothing I say after that has any validity because you just disarmed me with one term that they created, anti-vaxxer. They have all these things, you know, like the White House said during the COVID bullshit. Biden said, for you that are vaccinated, you have done your job. For you that are unvaccinated, this is going to be a winter of death and sickness.
Maybe he thought he was going to die.
Like, what the fuck are you talking about? I know a lot of people that are that never got the COVID vax, and everyone got COVID once, maybe twice. Second time was usually pretty easy, right? I know people who were poked and poked and poked, and they're like, I've had COVID 19 times. Well, no shit. You don't say.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a very strange industry.
Well, but their only job is to make money. So as long as you realize that, I think you can frame things a little bit differently. If you just realize that every publicly traded company's only job is to make money, including those in the medical industry, then you can frame things a little bit differently when you're receiving the message.
Well, but everybody's job is to make money. Every business is just trying to make money.
But your primary focus is to make money for you, but to have but your primary focus is your members. You wouldn't spend all the money you do on adding machines that we don't need another one of, because you think there's a better one out there, or you think there's a machine that's better, right? You wouldn't do that if your primary focus was only money. You would ride with the old equipment for as long as possible, so you weren't investing into new equipment that isn't necessarily going to bring you a new member. It's not going to necessarily make you any money. Most of the time, it's just an investment in the quality of your gym. But that doesn't necessarily translate. Like, if you were just trying to make money, you wouldn't buy some of the equipment you did, because it doesn't translate 100%.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. But I think, so where do you think that detachment is? Because every company starts out the same way.
Publicly traded shareholders. When you're worried about stock price and you're worried about...
But you still have to maintain a customer base. Because you see plenty of companies go under. I mean, that's not unheard of. You know what I mean? You see, I mean, look at like the Bud Light thing when they got boycotted, right? Because, and then we can talk about the Tesla thing, which is fucking ridiculous.
That's not a boycott. That's terrorism.
Yes. And somebody tried to compare the two. No one burned down the Anheuser-Busch fucking breweries.
No.
But I'm just saying, look what that did. And Anheuser-Busch is a publicly traded company. But look what the boycott did to their brand.
Yes.
And look how much money they lost. I mean, they were giving away beer, basically. And then now they've spent so much money to bring it back, and it's still not to where it was at. So even as a publicly traded company, they attacked their... People felt like they attacked... However you want to look at, whatever you want to look at, they felt like they attacked their main customers. That's where I'm getting at your customer. It doesn't matter how big you are. It doesn't take much of an event to cut your customer base down tremendously. Like I said, they were selling cases of beer for like $5. They lost a ton of money.
Yes.
Luckily, they have other brands under them. Now, that was different marketing. People like they're all kind of their own subsidiaries of Anheuser-Busch. But so that's where my thing is, and I get where Matt's saying, but like, if you can lose customers fast.
Right. And that they had to. So it may have been some kind of woke ideology that they decided they were going to step into. Probably because they thought it was going to get them more business.
Well, it's like the court of public opinion. And the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And what does 99% of TV media show?
Right.
The squeaky wheels. That goes back to a lot of things. Like, they want to talk about all this hate in the world and all this other shit. And I've asked plenty of people that I know that are either, could be gay, could be black, could be whatever, especially during that time. How much on an average day, week, month, year do you experience racism or hate? And they're like, never. Do you know what I mean? They're like, now does it happen? 100% I'm sure it happens out there. I'm not going to say it doesn't. But it's probably a minority of the minority that it happens to.
Right. It could go down a completely different path there.
but I'm just saying, and so they tried to go after, they tried to accommodate the squeaky wheel. Is
right.
What I'm saying.
And they made a mistake, and then they've done everything to shift off of that, because it wasn't about the move. It wasn't, none of those companies, BMW, Ferrari, any of these companies that have like Middle Eastern companies, they never changed their pride flag. They never changed during.
They never
Pride
displayed
Month.
a pride flag. Yes.
No, they don't do it in the Middle East. You know why? Because it's not going to make them money. So, like at that point in time, they know their customers, right? So it's not really about the movement. It's not really about what they believe. It's just about money. So in the U.S., they think they make money by doing it, so they do it. In the Middle East, they know they don't make money by doing it, so they don't do it. So it just comes down to money. Anheuser-Busch had to shift, right? And a lot of, you see, it is really funny because the whole pulse of the country changed when Trump was elected. Like, you can see a pulse of the country.
You mean the second time?
Yeah, the second time,
Yeah.
yeah. It just shifted. So you see a lot of people, even Mark Zuckerberg, full of shit. I didn't want to, censor people. It was the government told me to.
Hey, man, he got into combat sports. They say your testosterone levels go up when you get into combat
Mark
sports.
Zuckerberg, you're a sellout pussy who just does whatever you need for money. That's fine. Don't act. Even Rogan was kind of looking at him and was talking like, you're full of shit. Like, you are full of shit. But your job is to make money. So if you think you need to be woke to make money, you're going to be woke. If you think you need to be conservative to make money, you're going to be conservative. And you've seen the whole thing kind of shift over the last few months. It's very polarized right now, but you've seen a lot of shift to where conservative people are completely fine being outwardly conservative when there was a lot of closet conservatives before. And it's just, to me, it's just all about, so if you just view every single company, every big publicly traded company, as they're just trying to take your money, I just think you're better off just receiving the message of they don't care about you.
Yeah.
I think you could, I would challenge that statement a bit just to say I don't think it's as blanket statement like that, because you can have small companies that do the same thing. You can have small companies that are just trying to make money. Like we've talked about how Alex Hormozy started off with, is it Gym Launch? Doing all those like fitness scams and stuff. Like that was just purely to make money. And that was a relatively small business. And so then you also have companies that are private equity funded. So they're not publicly traded companies. And I think now, having been involved in a couple different private equity companies, like those are some of the most ruthless money-making enterprises out there, but they're not a publicly traded entity, and they can be of all kinds of sizes.
So I'm not saying that. Okay, let me clear up what I'm not saying that if you're not a publicly traded company that you're automatically good. Not saying that. Not saying that at all. I'm just saying if you are a publicly traded company and you understand that their job is not you, their job is their shareholders, and they're going to do whatever it takes to make their shareholders happy. When you receive their message, you understand where it's coming from.
Is there a sliding scale of evilness across those publicly traded companies?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's not to say that they're all bad.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not to say they're all evil. Okay. They're all part of the Illuminati. They're all trying to kill you.
Yep.
That's not to say that. It's just their job.
But, to draw that understanding that their motivation is to grow the stock.
Yes.
Like the stock, whatever their earnings per share goal
That's why CEOs get paid.
That's
hundreds
their goal.
of
Yes. Okay.
Millions, tens of billions, hundreds
of
millions.
So 100% on board with that kind of like observation statement that their goal is to drive the earnings per share.
It's not good or bad. It's not good or evil. It's just a fact.
It is what it is.
It just is what it is, that their job is to make their shareholders money. Now, that can go down very evil paths. That can go down good paths. Like there are people who might be able to have a company publicly traded that do a lot of good things and that they keep making their shareholders money. Mm-hmm. But at some point in time, if push comes to shove, and it's your ass or their shareholders' ass, your ass is gone.
Well, and I think kind of even what you're saying, like a company that, I mean, obviously we talk about barbecue. I look at a company like Traeger. Do I think the quality of the Traeger product is as good as it used to be? Like before they got to their new insulated ones, like let's say pre-Timberline, like the Pro 34s and stuff like that. I look back to the first one I got for my sister. That thing was built way sturdier. And ran for, the thing fell over in the back of my truck and blew over at Mike's house like 3 times and it still worked. But where they might have cheapened up their production, their customer service is always phenomenal. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I think, like you're saying, I don't think they're evil. I think they'll make shortcuts or they'll do certain things to make shareholders money. But at least what I've seen, I know Matt's seen with a company like Traeger, they might have brought their quality down on their basic units. When you get into the more expensive ones, whatever. That's a little bit different. But they make up for it in their customer service. I've never heard anybody, and maybe there's somebody out there that's had a bad customer service experience with Traeger and them not taking care of you. And I don't think I've never had to pay for anything I need replaced. I don't think Matt did either. They're really good with that. So like you'll see companies that way too sometimes, where their product, they might maybe cheapen.
Well, they moved it from U.S. production to China, or is it China?
I assume so.
I think it's China.
Yeah.
They move it from U.S. production to China production. You can see the difference. Like,
but they make up for it.
Well, they also know that the chances of you buying another one, you upgrading, right? That's why
that's where I go the repeat customer idea.
Yeah.
Even though the product might not be.
So they're going to try and make more money on their introductory lines to make more money for their shareholders. They're going to keep their customer service because they're hoping that you go from that Pro 34 to Timberline or wherever else, right? And then your Pro 34 gets handed off to Mike or a friend or a kid, and then hopefully they you know what I mean? So once again, that's not to say that it's always good or evil.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of saying.
Maybe that's where maybe I sounded that way. Well, because
or maybe they kind of offset it. It's kind of they play like the yin and the yang game. You know what I mean? Like, well, we kind of had to send this to China and cheapen this up, but we're going to make up for it with great customer service.
Or you make up for it. Like, so
but you have to make sure that thing's not such a piece of shit that I have to constantly call your customer service.
Well, I have a Pro 34 and I like it.
Yeah.
Oh no, and it was fine, but I'm just saying like it was a little thicker construction back then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But it's
because go ahead.
So your sourcing of materials go up, right? So if I think the Pro 34 is still $700, I think. So if that's your price point, right? And before you could source that stuff stateside and labor costs and everything could keep it there, cool. But then if we are still operating under the assumption of that they have to make ROI returns on their shares, right? Their earning per share has to go up. So they make a forecast for earnings per share to go up. And they say, okay, we do that by selling however many more units. If they can't make that sales, they still have to get that earnings per share. So they need to figure out a way to make that money. So they can't get more customers. They're not getting more repeat customers. So they have to make more money per unit. So you outsource that somewhere else. And you go down that route. So it's always that bouncing back and forth. Now, I think the trouble that a company like that runs into is like once you flip that lever of creating a lower quality product to generate that revenue, it's really hard to make a higher quality product and still keep that revenue going, right? So I think that's where Traeger is, but it probably doesn't cost them a whole lot to have I can't remember the guy's name. Whoever I talked to down in San Antonio was fucking great.
I had some girl I talked to, and she was great too.
To have him on the phone to talk to me Saturday morning. Oh, they're in Utah. That's right. They were based.
Yeah, their headquarters out of Utah.
To have that guy on the phone to talk to me probably doesn't cost them all that much in the grand scheme of things. So that's their trade-off, right? In order to, they have a lower quality product than they had before, but they offer a complementary product in case something happens, so that you do feel good, so that we sit here and we talk about it and say, man, the customer service was fucking
and basically
the one time this broke.
And basically free to you. It was kind of like back in the day, and I don't know if they still do it, but I remember Oakley back in the day. If you had a pair of Oakley sunglasses and anything happened to them, you'd send them in and they'd fix them for you, or they'd send you like $100 gift card or something to buy a new pair of Oakleys. And like zero questions asked usually from anybody. I never had sent any, but anybody I talked to said, oh yeah, my lens broke, or my earpiece fell off. Yeah, I just sent it in. They sent me a new pair.
Yeah, but to my point, they're doing all of that because it makes them the most money.
Yes.
That's how they maximize their earnings.
And they realize we're selling a $200 pair of sunglasses.
Right.
Like Nike gets on their they get on their throne about all this like woke shit, all while using slave labor in China to make their shoes. You know what I mean? Like, but once again, like if they were going to live what their message was, they would have it all here, paying real labor, and they would make less money because you can only sell shoes for so much, right? They would make less money and they would be living what they say they are. But their responsibility is not to that. Their responsibility is to their shareholder. They just make themselves feel good, and they try and make the public feel good about them by putting a message out there. But at the end of the day, they use the cheapest labor possible ever to make their shoes so they can make the most money per shoe and make the most revenue for Nike.
Well, I tried to, one day Chris and I were out at Shields and he was saying something about Nike and he didn't want to buy them because of slave labor. And I was like, dude, you don't even want to go down the fucking rabbit hole. Every company has fucking skeletons in the closet. So you really need to choose your battles on what you want to do. You know what I mean? Like maybe you don't buy Nikes, but you buy some other product that you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you're not going to, there's probably no product in anyone's house that hasn't been touched by fucking Chinese slave labor. They probably have at least one product in their house.
Oh, it's not probably.
Yeah, yeah.
or it's like, oh man,
You're gonna
I
have
could,
at least one.
or the best, like, man, I could never buy Nikes at slave labor as they're scrolling on their iPhone. I was like, who do you think they put nets on the fucking buildings so they couldn't commit suicide?
Yeah, so when they jumped, they got caught.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just funnel them back down the chute onto the main floor.
Yeah,
go
so it's
through
just
training.
and it's cool. You want to try to like play that, but like,
But I
yeah,
think where you
otherwise-
can, if you want to, it's cool. There's companies you can do that.
But yeah,
you
your
get to that
odds are
size and scale though, and it's
But
it's
even
tough.
like it is tough because
even
you
a
could
car.
go.
You're not going to find a car that doesn't have something foreign in it, you know, and maybe not made in the best conditions.
Ironically, the most American-made car is Tesla.
But Tesla does still have,
Basically, just the batteries come from over everything.
which is like some of the worst jobs. The strip mining is like some of the worst
but
jobs you can have.
Batteries are batteries.
Yeah,
right.
no,
We all
but yeah, you're not gonna. I'm just saying you can't
But the
avoid.
most American-made car with non-use of slave labor.
Isn't this weekend supposed to be some big fucking anti-Tesla weekend? It's that
They're so
that
stupid.
Congressman Crockett wanted something for her birthday. People to go out and fucking go after Tesla.
They're so stupid.
The same chick that
I
called
like-
Governor Abbott Hot Wheels.
I wouldn't have a problem if people want to protest Tesla. Cool, like you can do that.
Yes.
Like you can 100% do that. The part that gets me, what you guys were talking about, is like as soon as you, like when you damage a car that's already been purchased, you are not hurting.
Well, even if you damage a
Tesla.
car at a dealership,
On the lot, that's still terrorism.
then that's
Right.
what-
Well, no, but yeah. So that's bad. That damages Tesla, and it's still terrorism. Greed. Like not.
But
good.
you're saying,
But I'm
like,
saying like
yeah.
when you go and like you firebomb someone's personal vehicle or you key someone's vehicle.
that maybe they've saved
So-
their entire life to buy.
So liberals are protesting Tesla, right? And they're all funded. They're all these are funded actors. I 100% guarantee it. Soros and all that fucking Act Blue and bull, it's funded. But they're liberals attacking predominantly liberals who bought the Teslas.
Well, like I said, this is great reverse psychology. They have all these crazy Green New Deal people driving gas vehicles again.
Yeah, they turned in their
Dude, they
Tesla
coulda
for a
went-
GMC Tahoe that gets 14 miles a gallon.
Dude, they could have bought like a fucking that Mustang Mach E. They could have bought was it a Volt? What's that other one? It's probably going out of business. What's that other one?
Chevy Volt, right?
Yeah, they had that one. And they have a couple other, but Cadillac's got an electric car.
Honda's got, I think, an Accord.
Hyundai's
All
got
of it.
one. What's that other electric car company that's probably going out of business?
Oh,
though?
Rivian?
Rivian. You could have bought a Rivian.
Those
But
things
yeah.
are expensive.
Yeah, but they
They're
went from a Tesla to a fucking Tahoe.
Way to show me
But
that
I just-
guess global warming's over,
If
losers.
you want to protest, you can protest all you want to. But yeah, when they were trying to compare the Bud Light thing to the Tesla thing, I'm like, that is not the same thing.
No one went out and went to all the Bud Lights and poked holes in them in the store.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes. They're like, oh, Kid Rock he shot his own personal. If you want to, like that one guy, he bought his own Tesla and destroyed it on the new. What an idiot.
Yeah,
Why
if
would
you
spend
wanna do that,
money?
cool, that's
yeah,
yours.
Kid Rock had a bunch of Bud Light and he shot it with a fucking MP5. Good for him. It's his shit. Who cares?
Yeah, they paid for it.
Yeah, you want to destroy your own shit? You
Or
want
they
to
already had paid for it, yeah.
Yeah. Here's the best part. You want to destroy your own Tesla? Then watch them get insurance fraud and be like, man, somebody vandalized my Tesla. But yeah, I think if you do something to people's cars like that, you should have your life taken.
Yeah.
I just like my Christmas present would be that I would like stumble upon someone.
Not putting their cart back or keying a Tesla.
Yeah. would
Not
stumble.
putting your cart back 100%.
Yeah.
Death.
Oh, I told you what I said to that lady, didn't I?
Yes.
Yeah. I said you're a Biden voter, aren't you? And it pissed her off either one of two ways. Either she wasn't, and she's like, this motherfucker, or she was, and she's like, this motherfucker. I won twice. Either way, I win. I want to stumble upon someone like harassing someone with a Tesla, because you know they're going to be harassing some like 5'2" lady. They're not going to, you know what I mean? Like they're not harassing Tom,
Yeah.
who
Or
drives a Tesla,
John,
or John.
he drives John Hanson. Doesn't he have a Tesla?
Yeah.
Yes, they're not
That would be
harassing.
great.
They're not. I just want to stumble upon it happening in a parking lot or
So you
something,
can pull out your phone and record it.
so I can just beat the fuck out of people for just like.
I mean, you don't have to wait for him to do that. You can just go find someone and not like their face and just do it.
But you know the worst part is that deal? You're going to be the one that gets in trouble on that
that's
deal.
fine. You know, it's completely fine because it'll get on social media, and I'll probably be saved by Elon. Like he'll come bail me out, pay for my lawyer. You know what I mean?
He's gonna sit down and talk to you for a little bit and be like, oh, never mind. We're good.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
No, I think me and Elon will get along.
Yeah, you guys would be all right.
I just don't. I feel like I'd be like Joe Rogan, where he's like, I just get super stoned and think about if I'm flying on that rocket and the two dudes kill themselves. You see when he talks about that? He's like, dude, I'm sitting here with like the smartest people in the world. I'm sitting here talking to Elon. The whole time in my head, I'm thinking, dude, what if I'm on a rocket? You know, and the two guys, the actual astronauts, the one pulls a gun out, kills himself, and shoots the other guy, and I'm stuck on this fucking rocket. He's like, I don't really understand what he's talking
Do
about.
bullets work in
Oh yeah.
zero?
Well, I think they were doing it before they left gravity.
Oh,
I mean, they'd still work.
The distance
it?
would be different.
Yeah, I mean, because the bullet going out would not. I mean, if the bullet leaving had more energy than like you stationary, then it would just push you backwards. But you holding on, especially if you're up against like the side of a. Like,
Of course, it's going to work because how do you think a rocket gets back out of space?
well, so
It's still a similar
But that-
propulsion.
yeah, your propulsion. But this would be all you're trying to do is you're trying to push the projectile out. So like the bullet has.
But its propulsion would just wouldn't
Yeah.
carry it as far. It'd be like shooting
Yeah,
at water, kind
the
of.
bullet has potential energy sitting there. Your whole body has potentially energy sitting there. When the bullet fires, and
actually,
goes
I
out
would like
that
to
way,
see what would happen.
It pushes.
I'm sure they've done tests.
I mean, if you were to hold it in one hand off to one side and you shot, I'm sure you would start spinning, right? Because you're gonna have counteracting forces. The bullet's gonna take off and you're gonna spin, but the bullet's still
Just going to be
go.
bouncing around.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I don't think it would kill anybody.
Oh, 100% it would.
It would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do
Well,
the math on
like-
the potential energy in a bullet versus the potential energy of a human.
I want to know,
No,
like,
with anti-gravity, with no gravity, you think it still would?
well, because it will move. I just don't know how.
I just don't know how much. That's what I'm saying. How much energy does it lose? You know what I mean? Like,
so, I mean, so
because they've done it.
the
Well, I've seen they
bigger-
do it in water.
Yeah, I mean, the bigger that's traveling through water. So now you have to fight the.
But you're
friction of
traveling
the
through
water.
nothing,
So there's
so
virtually
it could
the
potentially
only-
never slow down.
The only thing that would take away from the bullet speed would be its kinetic force on you. Right.
So if you shot a bullet, theoretically in zero gravity, would it just never stop
it would just keep going.
forever?
Yep.
Well, it has to lose potential at some point, doesn't it? Because
Not if you have
Nothing
no
to act
gravity.
on it. Like I mean, it would eventually because it's going to go through gravity fields of this, that, and the other. And
But if it,
would.
never hit gravity,
But if it never, like if you were in between galaxies and you shot a bullet,
What do you think? But it would still traveling with enough force to kill somebody, though.
whatever force it leaves with, it's going to continue with that same exact force forever. In a vacuum, in a gravityless vacuum.
that's interesting.
It is. Is this just you saying this, or you've like done some research on that?
I have not done much research on it, but
I mean, I know,
No,
you're,
okay, like I
I've nerded out on some of the
like
I know
part,
you're mathy, so
yeah.
that's why.
part of me thinks that it would do nothing, and the other part of me thinks that it would never stop.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean.
So think about standing on like those little kid toys that are like they're the little platform that just pivot, right? If you stand on that and you throw a ball, you throw the ball's still going to go that way, but you're going to spin
Yeah.
to some degree.
Oh, I get that part.
Yeah, so it would
I
be
just
that-
the bullet movement is where I just like part of me thinks however fast it comes out, it stays forever.
Yeah.
And the other part of me thinks like what Brett's thinking, like it just goes, dude.
Yeah, it's going to come out and stay at whatever it comes out the barrel with. Again, if you're in a weightless vacuum and it's just going to go
Because
on
the
forever.
propulsion, like when they're using propulsion in space, they don't. It's not like jets are on. It's like they use it to guide, like just to make little movements and then to come back.
So if you
But-
watch them, it spurts.
Yeah.
Right. So the same thing, like because you could go into space, and if you had unlimited fuel, right, and even if you were just accelerating at 1G, you would just keep accelerating forever. Even you wouldn't have to increase the force of the thrust from your jet because again, there's nothing slowing you down, and that the force of the jet coming out is the exact same relative to you. Right, so your rocket could be going 100,000 miles an hour, and maybe say it has 1,000 miles per hour worth of propulsion coming out of it. That propulsion is only relative to you, and you're attached to it. So it doesn't matter. Like you and the jet are both going 1,000 miles an hour. Like if you're on a train,
yeah.
right? If you're on a train and you start running, it's going to feel like you're not going very fast if you just look at the train. But if you look at the ground, now you have your speed plus the train speed.
I mean, it's like being in a plane. Like it seems like you're not moving, but you're going like 500 miles an
Yeah.
hour.
That's very weird.
Yep.
Like, what do you kind of think about it? You're flying at however 100 and some miles an hour.
Yeah.
And you can take a drink of your Coke and it doesn't fly in your face.
Yeah, and it's fine.
Yeah.
There's some cool stuff we've done with our neighbor kids. If you're in a, it works best in a van just because it's open. But if you have a balloon,
Theory of relativity.
that's part of it.
Yeah.
But if you're in a car with a balloon, right, and you're just holding a helium balloon and you're driving and then you stop suddenly, the balloon moves. Like the balloon will keep going because like it's not attached directly to the vehicle. It only has that little string. So like while you feel this different force, you guys have opposite forces because the air in the vehicle wants to keep going forward.
So you're saying the balloon goes backwards?
Should.
I suppose, yeah, because it's not attached to anything.
It's
just
not attached to anything. Like all
it's
the air
holding
wants to
it's
go
holding
forward.
natural. It's holding its normal position, and
Yeah.
then the car. Yeah.
On a completely different topic, you were you had your generator and we had lost power. A lot of people lost power.
Yeah.
Tom, the Tesla battery pack, it's like $9,000 installed, and you can put in your house. You don't have to. They don't have the solar shingles here yet. Is what he said, and I'm guessing it's because of hail, right? Hail, wind. I'm guessing there's something with that, but it charges it off the grid, and then it uses Grok AI to watch the weather, and if any weather movement is in, it ramps it up to get you a full charge. And it'll keep you running for 2 weeks with no noise because this is a battery.
So is he getting it or he?
Yeah, he was looking at it. I think he's getting it installed. Actually, yeah, he is.
I wonder what the kilowatt, like what their daily draw.
Like it'll run like your AC and all that.
Yeah, it'll like basically for 2 weeks. The problem is you can't recharge it because you don't have anything else. It charges off the grid.
Oh yeah.
Oh
So
yeah. So once
after
you're
your
out
2
of
weeks.
power.
So after if you were more than 2 weeks, you know,
But I'm surprised they don't have like a solar panel you could just hook up yourself to. Like I have those little Yeti Goal Zero ones,
Yeah.
and you can buy like solar panels.
so
on your own
the
to hook
whole system is they actually shingle your house in solar shingles, and then it feeds into it and builds it up.
But at that point, can you just like get off of public power?
You would probably still whatever you produce, you sell back to the.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, could you get off public power in general and just live off of that?
You could, yeah, because you could just manually hit the switch.
Yeah, because I
But
looked at,
typically, no one's going to do that.
yeah, because I looked at some of those Yeti ones because you can expand the battery packs on them,
Yeah,
and I think it was like 8 or 10 grand, but it wasn't like
Yeah.
that long. You could go like maybe like 2 or 3 days of your whole house.
yeah. It's like, and here's the thing: you could probably make that work if it's not super hot or cold out. Like have the windows open, don't have the stuff running.
Yeah.
you know, take some things on and off. But yeah, I just thought it was pretty interesting. And they use the AI to track the weather to
Yeah.
when something's coming in, they can ramp it up. And then if they
So
have too much,
it doesn't just sit holding a charge all the time.
no. When it has enough, it just sells it back to the grid.
Okay.
So it'll just recycle it and then keep you here,
Yeah.
and then
And most of those will kind of
Keep you
die
at-
down for a little bit and they'll
It'll
recharge.
keep you at a certain level because it's not always weather that takes out power.
Yeah.
It could be some idiot
But I'm sure
or
they
a
do, like-
squirrel on a transformer.
I'm sure they do like ours. Even like when you keep any of the new, like the new Macs do that too. If you have them plugged in all the time, it'll let itself drop down, so you're not just constantly hammering the battery to 100%. Keeps the battery life better.
Yeah.
because ours will. And actually, a reminder for people with weather starting to change, have a pack in your basement. Have shoes in your basement. Have clothes in your basement. Have, if there is a tornado, because my sister and those guys learned that very quickly when they got hit last year. You don't think about it when you go in. You're like, oh, we went in the basement. Okay, if a tornado hits your house, do you have tennis shoes? You know what I mean? And like I have my bigger Yeti generator in my garage just sitting there. I was like, I should probably just put that in the basement, just in case. You know what I mean? But yeah, just a reminder, have that, and like make sure you have like, if you need like glasses or medications or those things, have those things somewhere that you can access them quickly.
Like an extra.
And or just even maybe you have them in like on your counter in like a little bag. You can throw them all in quick just to run into the basement if you have a radio or your phone. But having like an extra phone charger, some clothes down there just in case, any of that stuff, just in case it's that time of year, at least here, is coming up. Not a bad idea to have that stuff ready. Now, that's not being a prepper. That's just being a seasonal prepper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how much does it cost to put an extra pair of shorts, a pair of shoes that
Yeah.
you haven't, that you don't wear anyway?
And it could be like your
Right.
old.
Yeah, it's like stuff I'm gonna give this away,
Yeah.
or I'll just put it in this.
Yeah, it could be like
and,
your,
and a case of water.
Yeah.
it could be your old mowing shoes, or you know what I mean. Something,
Yeah.
So if there's glass or nails or something around that you can,
Yep.
you know, you can get out and do things and like, and maybe even some important documents. I mean, maybe have those in your in like a something water fireproof. Just to like, I have my gun safe in the basement that's like 1,000 pounds against the wall. I highly doubt that Nader's going to blow that over or take it. I don't know, but without lift, I don't think it's going to go anywhere. But yeah, just to
Wouldn't
kind
it be
of,
some shit if it just knocked it over on its door?
at least the shit would still be in there.
Yeah, I guess everything's still there.
Yeah, because that's where I have most of our important paperwork stuff.
Well, he pulled 600 pounds the other day. He can lift it up.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Well, I had to lift it last time when those fucking Gomers moved into my basement and left it laying on the floor. And then they were like struggling. I was like, dude, I'll just do it
Just
myself.
fucking get out of
Fine, just
here,
get out of
kids.
here. You already broke my steps.
We have a little, like a little wall safe we have in the closet, and I went to go get what did I need? Either a checkbook or to check passports. Either way, went to go in there, went and hit the button, you know, and it was like no beep. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? So the panel died, the battery died on it. I'm like, I'll just go get the key for it. I have no idea where I put the fucking key for this thing. And you change the batteries from inside the safe.
My sisters, they had a wall safe.
Haven't got into it yet. I'm not sure.
They had that wall safe when the tornado hit. It was just in the neighbor's yard, still screwed to the fucking studs. So at least they got that.
Yeah, that's good.
But yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
guess that's a summary. If you think that most companies care about you, they don't. Some do. Find the ones that do. Do business with them. But
Yeah.
And once again, not to say that every small company is good or every big company is evil. It's just a perspective. Publicly
Yeah.
traded companies, their job is their shareholders,
Yeah.
not you.
There-
well,
yeah.
and you know that'll say that money is the root of all evil. It is, but money is also the root of a lot of joy.
Yeah.
You can't do a lot of cool things without money.
Right.
So hate it or love it, money's on top.
You can't have giant scooters in here if you don't have money.
Yes.
It's true.
Yes,
That one's really good. The Caramelicious.
it is good.
So,
The turtle one's good too.
I've not had the turtle one.
It's pretty solid. I just go to Starbucks or Scooters and just like, what's the gayest thing you have today? I'll have
Yep,
that.
I'll take one of those.
Yeah.
I always whispered, I'm like, I'll have the Caramelicious cream vanilla cold brew.
No, Amber, no, she just yells it right in there for me.
This big teddy bear, he'll have that one with all the whipped cream.
Yep. Yeah.
I saw that it was like something on Instagram. It was like the guy orders like a bourbon, like just on the rocks. And then the girl orders like some foo-foo, like, and then when they get outside, they look and they swap.
Nice.
Exactly. Exactly.
You guys got anything else?
Nope.
Negative.
All right, guys. We appreciate you listening. Like we said, like, subscribe, share, follow, and we'll see you next time.